Here is our warm-up for the day. Number one is considering the data from Explore activity we talked about yesterday. And we want to use residuals to evaluate the quality of fit for the line y equals 0.24x plus 29.5, where x is again the years since 1970 and y is the median age. So they found the residuals for you and plotted them. So looking at the graph, you had to determine if the quality, it was a good fit for the line or not. Looking at the residuals, we want them either very close to the zero or evenly spaced around it. Since the dots are all below it, this is not a good fit. Because the points are all below. Number two, it's asking you to predict the median age of females for the years given below, and then to state whether it's an extrapolation or an interpolation, excuse me. Well, extrapolation means that it's happened after all the data has been compiled. Interpolation, again, remember that means it's a year that was within the data itself. So for part A, the first thing we're going to have to do is figure out what x is. Hopefully you remembered that it does say since 1970. So you took 2030 and subtracted 1970 from it to figure out what that x would be. And you should have had 60. So x equals 60. So it would have been y equals 0.25 times 60 plus 29. Which gives you 44. So the predicted median age of females for that year would be 44. 2030 is past the data, so it would be extrapolation. For part B, the difference between 1986 and 1970 is 16 years. So it's going to be y equals 0.25 times 16 plus 29. And that should have given you 33. So in 1986, the median age of a female would be 33 years old. 1986 was within the range. I think it went to 40 years since 1970. So this is interpolation. Here is your homework from last night. With number one, again, they wanted it in years after 1970, so I put the number of years up above it after 1970. At 1970, that was 0 years. 1980 was 10 years. 90, 20, 2030, and 2010, 40. So those were our x values. The y values stayed the same. I chose the 2 points 10 and 28.8 and 20 and 31.6 and got the equation y equals 0.28x plus 26. Keep in mind if you use different points, your equation is going to be a little bit different, but it should still be pretty close. You shouldn't be at like 0.5 or anything like that. And you should be pretty close to a positive 26, a b-value of 26. So that's the equation. So remember when we do the residuals, the actual column is what we get from the table itself. Okay? So that one just comes directly off of the table. The predicted is when we actually plug these values in to our equation. Okay, so for example with 0, if you multiply 0.28 times 0, they use this equation here. 0.23 times 0 plus 27 is how they got a predicted value of 27. So they did that for year 10, x equals 10. They did that for x equals 20, x equals 30 was done for you, and x equals 40 to find your predicted. And then the residual column comes from subtracting the actual and the predicted. Okay. That table should be the same for all of you because they did tell you what line to use. So that should hopefully let you know if you did it right or wrong. To predict the median age of males, the first thing is we have to subtract 1970 from 1995, and then we plug in 25 for x. There was a typo on number 5. It shouldn't have said y plus, it should have been y equals, and it was approximately 32.75. 1995, at 25 years since 1970, is right within your data set, so that's interpolation since it's within the range. You're going to be practicing this a little bit more. I know it can be confusing the first time around. So you're going to be on workbook page 261, 8 through 15. To make it a little bit easier to check your work, for question 10, make sure you use these 2 points to write your line of best fit, and then make sure you check your answers with the answer key to let you know how you're doing.